Is the desk on Global Television?
Nigeria. Come join Anthony Momodu on television's most compelling and facts-finding talk live show.
We are the Palestinians.
Can we not say that again?
Because
that this country gets it right.
who are these bandits?
It's the Dex on Global Television, where we analyze and dissect storming issues and commentaries in the world's biggest black nation, Nigeria.
Who is being held accountable for this money?
The eyes have it.
We stay and decide policies and reforms on the Dex. Tune in Mondays to Fridays, 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. on Global Television. Let's stay on the Dex.
Is the desk on Global Television?
Nigeria. Come join Anthony Momodu on television's most compelling and facts-finding talk live show.
We are the Palestinians.
Can we not say that again?
Because
That this country gets it right.
who are these bandits?
It's the Dex on Global Television, where we analyze and dissect storming issues and commentaries in the world's biggest black nation, Nigeria.
Who is being held accountable for this money?
The eyes have it.
We stay and decide policies and reforms on the Dex. Tune in Mondays to Fridays, 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. on Global Television. Let's stay on the Dex.
Is the desk on Global Television?
It's a wonderful evening. Thank you everyone for joining us here on the desk. We have Mofwegbe. Big stories up in front of us tonight. Of course, several of these stories are really not new. However, they've developed and evolved in the last couple of weeks, months, and years. Today, we're at a different point with regards to how these developments have changed very drastically within a very short time. First off, we understand that Vice President Kashif Shettima is all the way in New York now to attend the United Nations General Assembly, actually the 79th session of this assembly. He's there to represent his principal and President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Bola Tinubu. The Vice President, on behalf of the President and indeed on behalf of Nigeria and its people, has done quite a number of presentations. In some cases, several key issues bundled into a single presentation, particularly during the debate. We'll be keeping you abreast of all of these all the way into this weekend that's right ahead of us. But one of the things that stands out right now is the fact that the President of Nigeria, on behalf of Nigeria and Nigerians, is now seeking some sort of debt forgiveness on behalf of the Global South. Now, the President's argument is if countries in the so-called Global South, that is in the third world, are not giving some sort of concessions, there's a slim chance, if any at all, that they can contribute to global economic development. But that much isn't anything really new, because we're seeing successive governments in this country and across Africa make a similar request. But whether or not this is something the developed world, or the West in particular, would take very seriously remains to be seen. Because as it stands right now, Nigeria is a country on whose shoulders lie so much of responsibilities, whether in Africa or even beyond the continent. Expectations of Nigeria are very high, and as such, this debate is going to be a little protracted and long drawn out. Recall that Nigeria has also been a beneficiary of several kinds of aid and other forms of support in the last couple of decades. As of today, for instance, the level of development that we've come to find, many will argue, is not commensurate with all of these monies or funds that the country has received, even during the days of military, when there was so much of sanction against the most populous black nation in the world. That's one big story tonight. Then, of course, as expected, it's already 1 week into the threat that was issued by ASU. Now it has dropped to 14 days. ASU is making their own plea again very clear. That's the Academic Staff Union of Universities, saying that, look, we need to renegotiate the 2009 agreement. Remember, that was some 15 years ago. The same agreement that actually followed an 8 months, some people say, well, 9 months strike at that time that had grounded academic activities for almost one entire session. To think that 15 years down the line, we are still here in the woods regarding this matter, for many people, it's something they can't wrap their heads around. But ASUU's request is very plain. It says, let's go back to renegotiation of this agreement from 2009. But recall that there's also the 2022 understanding, or MOU, that ASUU has with the federal government. So these are several issues that ASUU is pushing at this point in time. But more of a key concern for the union is the 2009 agreement, and it says let's go back and renegotiate. But we have a few other issues we might be looking at tonight, and one of them again is the proposed October 1st protest. Now recall that in August we had the 10 days of End Bad Governance and Hunger protests. All right, just a few days after that protest had ended, based on its own schedule, it now says that there's a sequel, so to speak, scheduled for the 1st of October, which, by the way, is just next Tuesday, some 5 days away from here. Now, the organizers are saying they would rather have a virtual meeting with the authorities of the police. Now, the question you're asking yourself is, to what end is this meeting? Well, is the reason you have to stay with us on the program tonight. And last but not least is another big conversation that has to do with the oil sector, and of course the challenges Nigerians are now dealing with regarding the price of fuel and the availability of same. We are understanding that given the developments in the sector in recent months, the federal government is projected to spend excess, or if you like, upwards of 230 billion naira on a monthly basis in light of subsidy. That in itself throws up a very important question, whether or not a subsidy is still being paid by the federal government. Recall that if you had watched the president during his inaugural speech on the 29th of May in 2023, he said very categorically that subsidy is gone. But it's amazing, it's interesting how till today we are still debating back and forth as to whether or not this government is still paying any form of subsidy. Some news outlets, some development economists had talked about how that there had been a leaked memo that stated very clearly that subsidy in some form, to some extent, is still being paid by this government. We'll find some talking points in these regards tonight as we get you full throttle into the desk. We're back shortly.
Is the desk on Global Television?
Nigeria, come join Anthony Momodu on television's most compelling and facts-finding talk live show.
We are definitely.
Can we not say that again?
Because
That this country gets it right.
who are these bandits?
It's the Dex on Global Television, where we analyze and dissect storming issues and commentaries in the world's biggest black nation, Nigeria.
Who is being held accountable for this money?
The eyes have it.
We stay and decide policies and reforms on the Dex. Tune in Mondays to Fridays, 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. on Global Television. Let's stay on the Dex.
Is the
We go to Yola in Adamawa State on the program tonight, but that's because we have joining us a lawyer and a public affairs commentator, Barrister Sunday Wogira, who joins us live via Zoom. I'd like to say a big thank you to you for taking out the time to jump in on the conversation. First of all, let's begin by looking at Nigeria's attendance at the United Nations General Assembly. Of course, we have marked register, so to speak, at these events, this assembly, for several years. This is yet another. The Vice President of this country, talking about Kashim Shettima, is attending on behalf of his principal, the President, and of course the people of Nigeria. One of the requests that he has advanced, as far as we know, is asking for debt forgiveness. And the President's basis for this request is to say, look, if countries like Nigeria, that is countries in the developing space, are not giving some form of concession, their capacity and ability to contribute to global economic growth will be inhibited. What is your thought on this?
Well, as usual, we always go to this palace with a beggarly mindset. Yes, we will, under normal circumstances, if we were a responsible nation, debt forgiveness would be something that one would support. We were once forgiven. Our debts were once forgiven during Obasanjo's time. There was a clear demonstration of fiscal responsibility by the government. And when the debts were forgiven, you were given a clean slate to start on. And the government of President Olusegun Obasanjo, whatever anyone would say against him, or whatever anyone would have against him, would never say that that government did not show fiscal responsibility and patriotism, coupled with the resolve to fight corruption head on. Nuhu Ribado was the pioneer chairman of the EFCC. Honorable Justice Akambi was the pioneer chairman of the ICPC. These two responsible, upright individuals demonstrated resolve and clear grasp on the fight against corruption, which made the international community, under the aegis of the London Club, Paris Club, the World Bank, and whatever, to even put in place a program of debt forgiveness for the people of Nigeria and Nigeria as an entity. Now, how did we get to where we are today with this humongous debt and with our attitude, notably from 2015 to date? And then we'll have the courage to go and face the international community with a plea for debt forgiveness. I think something is missing in us. It was not part of our genetical makeup not to be shameless. But seemingly we are losing that. And I think there has never been any major surgery on our genetic makeup to even lose our sense of shame and decorum, to go and start begging for debt forgiveness, when in the first place, we have not been responsible. Some of the debts that we acquired never even reached Nigeria. Some people in the name of government will acquire debt and it won't come to Nigeria. It will just be distributed and shared before it came here, or repatriated back to wherever. And there will be nothing to show. And yet, if I were part of the international community, I know that a lot of people will not like what I am saying, but with all sense of humility and responsibility, our debts can never continue to be forgiven only for other people to eat this debt, because it is like even the international community, they are our enemies. And they are part of our problems. If they will give us debt for developmental issues, this debt will not be utilized, and only it will be eaten up by some other people in government using their offices, and at the end of the day will come back and still ask for debt forgiveness and it will be given. Then I think even the international community is complicit. It's complicit. If we were a serious nation afflicted by natural disaster and some other things that we could not settle our debt after utilizing it, that is a different thing entirely. But man-made disaster, by the same people that are eating up this money, they will go and still ask for debt forgiveness. I don't think we deserve that. And what example is the international community setting up for it?
Just in the course of the 78th Assembly, I mean, of course, the UN General Assembly, I spoke with somebody on television, and he said, look, it's time Nigeria stopped attending the United Nations General Assembly. And his argument is that we have more domestic issues to deal with that we have capacity to address. But every time we go to the UNGA, all we are doing is to grandstand, live in denial, come back home with next to nothing, having spent a lot to fund these trips because of the delegation that attends from Nigeria. Do you think we should stop attending such assemblies or events so we can focus on domestic problems while telling ourselves the truth?
Well, I don't think we should stop going. We should stop attending the UN General Assembly. It is an annual jamboree, actually. It is an annual jamboree where you meet and shake hands, you take tea, you put on suit and tie, you savour the weather. It is usually summer period. It's not so cold there in New York. So it is an avenue for sightseeing for a lot of people. So I don't think we should stop going. It is an avenue for even some security details to have to get out of Nigeria. And I think we should not, after all, even the United Nations itself is aware of the fact that it is no longer a serious organization. So if Nigeria should stop going, other nations should also stop going. But if other nations are going, we should continue to go. Perhaps one day we will have a change of attitude. That is
interesting. But quickly, Barrister Wugira, we are taking a break now. We are coming back in a few seconds. But then we'll be looking at the issue that is between the federal government and the Academic Staff Union of Universities. All of that coming up shortly. Do stay with us, everyone.
Is the desk on Global Television?
Nigeria. Come join Anthony Mamadou on television's most compelling and facts-finding talk live show.
We are the Palestinians.
we not
We
say
are the
that
Canaan
again?
because
That this country gets it right.
who are these bandits?
It's the Dex on Global Television, where we analyze and dissect storming issues and commentaries in the world's biggest black nation, Nigeria.
Who is being held accountable for this money?
The eyes have it.
We stay and decide policies and reforms on the Dex. Tune in Mondays to Fridays, 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. on Global Television. Let's stay on the Dex.
I thank everyone for staying with us on the program. It's been 2009. I mean, that was when exactly the federal government and the Academic Staff Union of Universities reached an agreement about certain things, including certain amounts that will be made available to the university system, the public universities, that is, in this country, and in what tranches, and of course, what the cycle will be. However, less than 2 years into that agreement, we had seen strike after strike after strike. So that today, 15 years down the line, it's as if next to nothing has been accomplished in the face or in light of that particular 2009 agreement between the federal government and the union. Barrister Wugira, I want to ask you this very pointedly. 15 years into this agreement, ASUU is again asking for the federal government to come back to renegotiation table. And the union says that if in 2 weeks the federal government refuses to do that, it will go on strike. Does it look like a system that is serious?
Well, I think this issue of ASUU and the federal government is beyond what we are seeing and what we are thinking. That is my own thinking also in this regard. I may be wrong, and I hope I am. The federal government, it is not in their interest. And most governments, with all sense of responsibility, including some state governments. It is not in their interest to give education to a greater majority of their people. Why? Because some of our leaders think that their problem is with people that are having knowledge. That until we make it a duty upon ourselves, ensure that anybody that is going to the National Assembly has passed through either the College of Education or College of or Polytechnic or University, and whoever becomes governor or president passes through the university truly, not this long distance learning or non-appearance certificates that is being given nowadays, and people will just come and parade, or somebody will just come with his Cotonou or Togo certificate that is obtained even without going to Badagry. We will never get it right. The university itself is a nightmare to whoever that is a leader without education. And you know what that means. Unfortunately, it was only during Buhari's time that for 8 years, the Minister of Education is not a professor. Check out all through. And they are the same people that the governments are using to humiliate their own, to make life unbearable for their own, to make the university education or tertiary education as a whole chaotic and almost impossible to understand and or comprehend. In essence, what am I saying? It is an agenda. The majority, yes, those who have private universities outside of the poor, those who are going to public schools, some are even deceiving themselves that they are children of the class. There is no class in the country. It is either you are rich or you're poor. Because you are a servant, you can have access to loans or overdraft or whatever, and deceive yourself with one allowance or the other, or probably you can dip your hands somewhere. Or you collect revenue and refuse to remit, and you pay school fees with them. That does not take you out of where you are. And I'm telling you that no responsible government will have issues intractably with its system of education over a period of 15 years and still counting. A president worth his salt would sit down and give a marching order to the Minister of Education. Look, I am giving you so time to resolve all the resolvables, even if we are to draw our treasury empty. We owe our children a good education. And let us know that the child is the father of the man. So we owe them sound education. I am a product of free education. My parents were poor people. I passed through the university till I graduated. I did not pay up to 1,000 as school fees. 1,000 naira. When I first went to the university, my school fees was 385 naira, including accommodation, which was 90 naira. It was the highest fee in all. And today, Virtually all our leaders are products of free education, but yet they are afraid of their shadows. And we are making tertiary education practically impossible for our cousins, our brothers, our peers who are from poor homes, simply because God has elevated us. And you see, any nation that has a few gives its children. We are seated here and we are just grappling with ASU for 15 years, a decade and a half. And this is just the beginning. This is just the beginning. Look at the budget of education in the list of priorities today. How much is allocated to education in our budget? It's not up to ₦1 trillion. In a population of 200 million. And not everybody is in the university. Not every child is in school. And we are pretending as if all is well with us. I weep for Nigeria.
Let's not pretend. Let's not pretend, Barrister Wugira. But let's talk about the theory by some people, particularly those in the academia, saying that the proliferation of private universities has also taken a toll on public university system in Nigeria. In fact, there's also the belief, in some cases, claim that the bulk of these universities, I mean the private universities, are owned by politicians and generally politically exposed persons. How much of facts do we have in all of this?
Well, that is a fact. We can't check that away. But how does that affect education? All the returning officers in all elections in Nigeria are from the university now. And these same people, most of them are vice chancellors. And they are the ones that will be given results that even the devil will be scared to read. And they will make declarations. Are they also private university owners? Are they also politicians? Or are they politically exposed? So the problem is from within. Yes, we know public office holders are struggling to open their own universities, politically exposed, yes. But what are you doing to also guard the integrity, the sanctity of the education you give? The institutions you are charged with, entrusted with. These are the issues. Everything has been politicized. We have seen how a university council made somebody a professor. Is that also a private university? It's a public university. Federal University of Technology, Owerri.
I guess you're referring to the case involving former Minister of Digital Economy, Mr. Ali Patani.
Yes. He was the Senate of the Federal University of Technology, Owerri. In a very, very dramatic scenario. And we all pretended that all is well. Was being blackmailed? make him a professor. So most of the people within are lacking in integrity. You have your salary, you have everything. You see, I always tell people, if you are truly educated, you are a citizen of the world, you are beyond intimidation or harassment. You have the courage to say no under whatever circumstance, and damn it, you will survive. You are beyond bread and butter. God has blessed you beyond bread and butter, and bread and butter will never, ever intimidate you if truly you have the education. But you see, some of these people are products of quota system. When I was writing my JAM, and they said my state came under educationally less endowed state, I felt insulted as a child, as a young person. I went to the university at age 17 from a poor home. I felt insulted as a child. And today somebody is telling me after about 30 years that my child cannot go to the university until he is 20 or until he is 18. You can imagine this retrogression coming from the village. I sat for JAM, I made 234 in 1994. 234 points. And I received my admission to study law through the post office. 17-year-old village boy. And now somebody will just come, all he thinks of is, why should children be going to school? And they must be 18 before they will even go to the university. Should this be our preoccupation? We are chasing shadows. And it is, how do I, the politician is very crafty. They are criminally ingenious. Excuse my use of this word. They bring their own. I mean, they will bring somebody from a constituency they want to destroy to help in destroying the constituency. Professors are being made ministers of education, and they will just be given marching orders to disgrace themselves.
Barrister Wugira, we're taking another quick break right now. When we return, two more issues to look at. We understand that the organizers of the End Bad Governance protest that took place in August are planning a sequel. As a matter of fact, that sequel, as I'd like to call it, is being planned for October 1. And they're saying they would rather have a virtual meeting with the authorities of the Nigeria Police. All of that will bring your way right after this short break. Please don't go away.
Is the desk on Global Television?
Nigeria. Come join Anthony Momodu on television's most compelling and facts-finding talk live show.
We are the Palestinians. We are the Canaan because
That this country gets it right.
who are these bandits?
It's the Dex on Global Television, where we analyze and dissect storming issues and commentaries in the world's biggest black nation, Nigeria.
Who is being held accountable for this money?
The eyes have it.
We stay and decide policies and reforms on the Dex. Tune in Mondays to Fridays, 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. on Global Television. Let's stay on the Dex.
Thank you, everyone, for staying with us here on the desk. Barrister Wogera, we are beginning to wind down now, but quickly, two more issues. The first is the October 1 protest now being planned by the same persons who had organized the End Bad Governance protest, which originally we had been told was tagged End Hunger protest. In any case, that protest was one of the highlights in the month of August for Nigeria. Now we are hearing that the protesters are planning a follow-up of some kind for October the 1st, which is just next week, Tuesday, 5 minutes away. We'll talk about all of that quickly. Let's go on a quick break.
Is the desk on Global Television?
Nigeria. Come join Anthony Momodu on television's most compelling and facts-finding talk live show.
We are the Palestinians. We are the Canaan because
That this country gets it right.
who are these bandits?
It's the Dex on Global Television, where we analyze and dissect storming issues and commentaries in the world's biggest black nation, Nigeria.
Who is being held accountable for this money?
The eyes have it.
We stay and decide policies and reforms on the Dex. Tune in Mondays to Fridays, 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. on Global Television. Let's stay on the Dex.
Is the desk on Global Television?
Nigeria. Come join Anthony Momodu on television's most compelling and facts-finding talk live show.
We are the Palestinians. We are the Canaan because
That this country gets it right.
who are these bandits?
It's the Dex on Global Television, where we analyze and dissect storming issues and commentaries in the world's biggest black nation, Nigeria.
Who is being held accountable for this money?
The eyes have it.
We stay and decide policies and reforms on the Dex. Tune in Mondays to Fridays, 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. on Global Television. Let's stay on the Dex.
Is the desk on Global Television?
Nigeria. Come join Anthony Momodu on television's most compelling and facts-finding talk live show.
We are the Palestinians. We are the Canaan because
That this country gets it right.
who are these bandits?
It's the Dex on Global Television, where we analyze and dissect storming issues and commentaries in the world's biggest black nation, Nigeria.
Who is being held accountable for this money?
The eyes have it.
We stay and decide policies and reforms on the Dex. Tune in Mondays to Fridays, 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. on Global Television. Let's stay on the Dex.
Is the desk on Global Television?
Nigeria. Come join Anthony Momodu on television's most compelling and facts-finding talk live show.
We are the Palestinians. We are the Canaan because
That this country gets it right.
who are these bandits?
It's the Dex on Global Television, where we analyze and dissect storming issues and commentaries in the world's biggest black nation, Nigeria.
Who is being held accountable for this money?
The eyes have it.
We stay and decide policies and reforms on the Dex. Tune in Mondays to Fridays, 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. on Global Television. Let's stay on the Dex.
Is the desk on Global Television?
Nigeria. Come join Anthony Momodu on television's most compelling and facts-finding talk live show.
We are the Palestinians. We are the Canaan because
That this country gets it right.
who are these bandits?
It's the Dex on Global Television, where we analyze and dissect storming issues and commentaries in the world's biggest black nation, Nigeria.
Who is being held accountable for this money?
The eyes have it.
We stay and decide policies and reforms on the Dex. Tune in Mondays to Fridays, 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. on Global Television. Let's stay on the Dex.
Is the desk on Global Television?
Nigeria. Come join Anthony Momodu on television's most compelling and facts-finding talk live show.
We are the Palestinians.
we not
We
say
are the
both of them?
Canaan because
That this country gets it right.
It's the Dex on Global Television, where we analyze and dissect storming issues and commentaries in the world's biggest black nation, Nigeria.
Who is being held accountable for this money?
The eyes have it.
We stay and decide policies and reforms on the Dex. Tune in Mondays to Fridays, 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. on Global Television. Let's stay on the Dex.
Is the desk on Global Television?
Nigeria! Come join Anthony Momadou on television's most compelling and facts-finding talk live show.
we are the
we
Palestinians.
not
We
say
are the
both of
Canaan
them?
because
That this country gets it right.
It's the Dex on Global Television, where we analyze and dissect storming issues and commentaries in the world's biggest black nation, Nigeria.
Who is being held accountable for this money?
The eyes have it.
We stay and decide policies and reforms on the Dex. Tune in Mondays to Fridays, 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. on Global Television. Let's stay on the Dex.
All right, thank you everyone for staying with us here on the desk. Incidentally, we're having some technical glitch with our connection to Barrister Sunday Wogera, a lawyer and a public affairs commentator who has joined us on the program today, live via Zoom from Yola, Adamawa State capital. But in all, one thing is clear, protest or not, citizens will always have the right to advance their concerns regarding how their country is run. However, it must be done within the ambit of the law, and those who are protesting, as well as those behind these protests by way of organizing them, must take full responsibility for how they eventually turn out. That's our program for you today. Thank you for watching. I'm Uyag Mofwebe. I'll see you again. Right up will be the news cycle at top of the hour. Do stay with Global Television.